Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be painting a Plague Marine for the Death Guard. This is probably my favorite custom paint scheme I've come up with. First, we're going to start with Sycorax Bronze, and we're just going to dry brush this all over the model. We're going to specifically focus on the trim, because the armor panels we're going to end up covering later. But if you get some on there right now, it doesn't matter. Like, as you can see, I'm covering pretty much the entire model with it. Now we're coming in with a 50-50 mixture of Iron Warriors and Abaddon Black. In this particular video, I am actually experimenting a little bit. Instead of using Abaddon Black, I'm using black ink from Liquitex. And it gets me the same result, but it takes a few extra coats because the ink thinned down the Iron Warriors more than I wanted it to. So it was a really thin mixture, didn't cover the Sycorax Bronze that well. But it gave the same result, so I'll be sticking with Abaddon Black from now on. We're just going to go ahead, we're going to recover all the armor panels, the helmet, shoulders, all of that. I leave the slight dry brush effect on the bolter. I kind of like that, and when we grime up everything later, it should look nice. And once we're done this step, I'm off camera. I painted or repainted the cloth and all the tentacles of the bone black, just because they will not be. They're not going to be a metallic color. That wouldn't make much sense. All right, so now with the bones, they're repainted black. So now I'm going to come in and I'm using Rhinox hide. I'm just going to dry brush that on really lightly. This is another experiment. Ever since I did the Belcore video, I've been trying to redo my bone recipe because I really don't like how the bones looked on my Belcore. It looked way too yellow, way too one-dimensional. They needed a little bit more depth. Alright, so now this is Rakarth flesh. And while I like that it brightened up the bone, it's a little too much of a flesh color. So in the next clip, we're going to come in with Mournfang Brown. And we're going to cover that a little bit. Yeah, so as you can see, I'm kind of toning down the fleshy color a little bit, giving it a little bit more of a transition. And unfortunately, the capture failed. The next step, I washed the bones in Agrax Earthshade, excuse me. And then I also come in with Ushapti Bone. And I dry brush that onto the bone as well. Now I'm coming in, this is a 50-50 mixture of Known Oil and Typhus Corrosion. And this will be what really gives us that dirty, grimy look for our Plague Marines. It pretty much gives us a grimdark effect on armor immediately. It looks really nice. I really like how the armor comes out. It almost, because of the Typhus Corrosion, it almost turns the Iron Warriors green, but just slightly. It's just like a really sickly green. And usually I try to avoid the loincloths or any sort of cloth or bone or anything on a model when I'm doing that weathering of Typhus Corrosion, but again, another experiment, see how it looks. Now I'm coming in, this is Sycorax Bronze again, but we're just going to do some selective edge highlights, just to bring back a little bit of the shine in certain areas, just to kind of help show that there is still some metal underneath all that rust and grime and dirt and Nurgle nastiness. And you can even do this, like I do this mainly on the trim, but you can even do it on where we put the Iron Warriors. Like you'll see in the next section, I do edge highlight the visor of the helmet a little bit with this, just because it looks nice. It doesn't and when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. The trim was Cyclorix bronze, the armor plating is Iron Warriors. Why am I highlighting it with Cyclorix bronze if it's Iron Warriors? It doesn't have to make sense. It looks cool, real cool. Let's go with it. And as you can see, we're still just coming in. I'm not painting all the trim again, because then that would defeat the purpose of weathering the trim in its entirety. But just some of the flat surfaces where it would look good. The skulls on the grenade, the skull kind of protruding from his left shoulder. I highlight the forehead of that skull, and I also do like the brows, just erase edges, that sort of thing. Now we're coming through. I like to do a high contrast for the armor and the tentacles. So we're coming in. This is Nighthawk Gloom, and we're going to be turning the tentacles blue. And I used to do a mixture of, I think it was like Ragnarok Flesh, Mechanics of Standard Gray, and Cantor Blue. But then I was looking at it, and Nighthawk Gloom is pretty much the same effect, and it's already really thin, so I swapped it out. And I really like how it works. It's a suitable replacement. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I have to mix paints constantly for an army or a force, or even like something small like a guild team, it can be demotivating sometimes. And now we're coming in. This is Dragonov Nightshade, and we're gonna darken down the blue a little bit just to fit in with the armor, as well as just give a little bit more depth by letting it sit in the recesses, and just it'll give it that really nice sickly. It'll give it a sickly look to it, because now it almost looks like it's bruised, because you have the dark blue surrounding the pus and the growths on the tentacles. Now, typically, I will paint the loincloths red, like a really dark red, but I wanted to keep it black. And here's our finished plague marine. Let me know in the comments what you think. I really love this scheme. So, thank you all for watching.